This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and Unsnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Do you know that where you are and how things feel isn't how you want things to stay? Well, crank up the volume and get ready to cut the crap and start living the magic with Joanne Antoun and her specially selected guests. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your amazing life.
Welcome to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm your host, Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, the Life Transforming Combined Therapy Cocktail. I'm coming to you live from Cooma, New South Wales in Australia. Actually my hometown, a lovely little country town, the gateway to the Snowy Mountains, where I have to say it is actually snowing right now as we speak. I'm actually thrilled to be home. I'm usually coming to you live from hotel rooms, but having said that, I'll be on the road again straight after the show. So there's certainly no time for any dust to settle on my feathers, that's for sure. I have a fabulous guest joining us later in the show, David Solomon, who's going to share with you his incredible pearls of wisdom. But before we speak to David, I just want to share with you the journey of life. Now, we all have interesting journeys, our very own personal journey, but often through the journey of life we hear a calling, a yearning, a desire to be more, to do more, a yearning that, or a calling that usually relates to our identity, our life purpose or a mission. And it's something that we can always choose to accept or ignore. We'll often have these callings throughout our life. And as I said, you have free will and choice. So whether or not you choose to accept it is up to you, but it does keep on knocking. So if you accept the calling, this usually leads you to confront a boundary or a threshold of your existing ability or map of the world. It usually pushes you to see things differently and certainly pushes you to grow. So you accept the calling, and that's not enough. You actually have to take action. You have to cross the threshold. And when you cross that threshold, it propels you into some new life territory, one that forces you to grow, to evolve, to become more, to be more. And it also requires you to find a new support network, support and guidance. So you start to put out there that you now desire a mentor, somebody that really understands you. And they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Finding a mentor comes naturally once you've crossed the threshold. All you need to do is listen to that yearning, listen to that pull that you have within your heart. Accept the calling, you take that step, and I assure you that the right person, the right people, the right opportunities will come your way to guide you. Now, when you make that decision to cross that threshold, you often are forced to face a challenge. And that challenge is a natural result of crossing that threshold. It's a type of energy or power that we need to learn to contend with or accept. Often simply a reflection of our own inner shadows, but there are tests, there are challenges throughout life all the time. And then we need to transform that challenge. And transforming that challenge means turning it into a positive resource and advisor. It's usually accomplished by either developing a new skill or discovering that you have those incredible tools or resources within you anyway, and you bring them out. And then we move on to complete the task. You complete the task for which you've been called for. And you achieve this by creating a new map of the world, a new truth that incorporates the growths and discoveries that have been brought about by that calling in this part of your journey. But let me tell you, no matter how enlightened we become, the challenges always remain. That calling will always be there. We will always be pushed to be more, to grow more. For as long as you're alive, if you wake up in the morning, it's only because you've got more shit to learn. So what is it that you're needing to learn right now? What are you being called to do? All you need to do is hear the calling, accept, cross the threshold. And I promise you, life will unfold in ways that you never saw possible, and you will never want to go back to how you used to be. Well, I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that this gorgeous man, David Solomon, a dear friend of mine, is one guy that heard his calling. He made a decision to cross that threshold and take the journey deep into the heart, not only to live a life of purpose, on purpose, but to assist others in bringing heart, passion and soul back into their business too. I love this guy dearly. Hi there, David, and welcome.
Hi, Joanne. Thank you so much.
Did I make you cry?
Yeah, I am. I'm speaking with tears in my eyes, actually.
I could hear you. So welcome to the show. It's so lovely to have you on.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. I love our conversations, and I'm looking forward to getting some more insights from this one.
Well, we'll be sharing insights, getting insights, I'm sure. So, David, I'd love for you to share with our listeners a little bit about you. Obviously, I know you very well, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about you, your journey, and how you came to do what you do.
Thank you. It's almost difficult to know where to begin because the journey's been a long one. Not that I'm that old, but
forever young, mister. Forever young.
Yeah, it's only as old as you feel. Look, I suppose I started off in a very scientific-based house. My dad was an engineer. I studied sciences at school and maths and those sorts of disciplines, and so I grew up in a very left-brain environment. But inside of all of that, there was a deeply artistic soul as well that was just waiting to be unleashed. And I had glimpses of that. This was the calling that you were talking about. I had glimpses of that as I was growing up, when I was doing things at school, on stage. In fact, I'll come back to that in a moment, because there's one very particular episode that is forever etched in my memory where I really understood that that's what it was about for me. But it was, in fact, a 20-year journey after I'd had children, well, met my wife, of course, first, had children, and seen them grow up. It was 20 years for me to actually get out of my head, out of this scientific background, and get into my heart. And it was a whole lot of life experiences that led me to that particular path as well. And eventually my heart cracked open, literally wide open, and all of a sudden I got some different perspective, which was really, really great. And since then, my journey has been so much more pleasurable, so much more fun. I have a background in working with people in human resources. I'm a business coach, or holistic business coach now, but ultimately what I'm about is helping people to live a life that they truly love. And if building a business around that is the way that is, then that's what I love doing. And if it's not, if it's just about a life without a business, then that's okay too.
I have to say, for the listeners out there, David has one of the biggest hearts, and he gives the best hugs. So if you ever see David in the street, you need to go up and get yourself a hug, because they are the best. Now, when it comes to living from the heart, David, I mean, it's certainly something that you do 24/7, but what, in your opinion, are the key components to living a life that's heart-based and a life that you truly love? What are those key components, do you think?
Well, I think the first component is actually working out what it is that brings you joy. We are here on this planet essentially to live a happy and a fulfilled life. We may have other destinies beyond that as well, I think. But we have chosen to be here in this time-space continuum for a particular reason, and it's probably because we've got something to learn or something to teach. And to me, that's got to be the starting point, is working out what it is that brings you pleasure. Because when you're having pleasure, when you're having joy, and I'm talking here not just about things that satisfy you, but things that really make your heart sing, the ones that bring tears to your eyes, then you're living in the present, you're living right now, and you're doing work that has to be doing good, because to be bringing you that much pleasure, it's going to be wrapped up in love.
Yeah. So how does someone do that? I mean, often you find so many people that have lost themselves in their relationships or lost themselves in their careers, and they find themselves stuck in it because they feel that they've got no choice. And we all know that there's always a choice. But somebody comes up to you and says, well, I don't know. I don't know what makes me happy. I don't know what my passion is. I don't know. What advice would you give them? How could they find that?
I struggled with this for years, Joe. And the reason I struggled is because I was trying to do it from a head perspective. I was trying to think my way through it and trying to rationalize with the economic, scientific, mathematical training that I'd been given as I was growing up. But it was because of exposure to some wonderful people like you and plenty of other learners along the way that I realized that it's actually not about what I think, because that's an illusion. That's just a creation that my mind has made up in order to protect me. The reality is it's what I feel, and what I feel is in fact my truth. So the first secret is to being able to tap into what it is that you're feeling. And that in itself sounds perhaps easy, but it's not. However, there is a really easy first step to that. And that's just about becoming aware. And the way that you become aware is that you focus on the moment. You focus on what's happening right here, right now.
So for you personally, what was the moment, like your pivotal moment that changed things for you? I mean, obviously we have a few, but what was your moment?
My first moment was when I experienced love in a way that I had never experienced it before, ever. I was standing on stage. I was, I think, about 17 years of age, and we were doing a school production, and I was dressed in a very, very short pink toga. We were doing a radio play called Rinse the Blood Off My Toga by Wayne and Schuster, and I was playing Brutus. And I'd written this play with my music teacher at the time, and it was for a house competition. And I was standing on stage doing a solo song, and I was communicating with the audience. And for the very first time, I felt that flow of energy between me and the audience en masse. And I suddenly realized that this is what it's about. It's about that level of communication. In hindsight, I realized that it was an exchange of love, but it was a flow of energy. And that moment has been so pivotal in my life. I use it as my anchor every time I want to go back to my source, because it was the very, very first time that I realized that that's actually why I'm here, is to be a conduit for people to be able to experience that level of communication, that level of love, and to experience something divine within themselves.
Okay, so at that point in time, you heard your calling, so to speak. Did you accept the calling and cross the threshold then, or did you need wake-up calls after that?
Oh, hell no. It was some 30 years later that I actually crossed the threshold.
Okay, so how many times did they go knocking on your door?
I couldn't begin to count. And a lot of them, the funny thing is a lot of them I didn't even hear, because I don't think I was ready to hear or I wanted to hear. I didn't hear them. And the other times that I did hear them, my fears held me back because of this paradigm. Well, I can't do that, or things that people had said to me about, well, you can't follow a career like that, or you shouldn't be doing that, or you should be doing this. I remember my late grandmother always used to say to me, oh, David, you talk really well. You've got the gift of the gab. You should be a lawyer. And at one stage, I actually studied 6 months worth of law before I realized, this is not where I want to be. And with the greatest of respect to any lawyers who are listening to this, I admire what you do, but it just simply wasn't for me. But it was some 30 years later, and I was sitting with a client of mine in one of my favourite places in the world, which is the Cafe in Centennial Park in Sydney. It's a 200-year-old park, and it's been loved. The park has got so much love in it, and it's got so much energy in it as well too. And I had I wouldn't say it was my well, maybe it was an epiphany. It wasn't like the heavens opened and a voice spoke to me, but it was an epiphany that I'm here on this planet to be a teacher. And it just sat with me really nicely. And I just went, okay, yeah, that's really comfortable. Okay, I'll run with that. Then, of course, the next stage of the journey began, which was trying to work out, well, what is it that I'm meant to teach and who is it that I'm meant to teach? Mm. So the journey, you said it beautifully before when you said that the journey keeps going, the journey doesn't stop, and we keep learning. So there was my epiphany some 30 years later, and then time for me to then commence the next stage of learning.
Right. So for you, everything really is about bringing soul and love into all aspects of life, not just business. It's about living from that space, right?
Absolutely. Look, I learned so much through having my kids and from my gorgeous, gorgeous wife. I was, a long time ago, I was not the sort of person that I would have wanted to have met. I was intolerant. I didn't suffer people particularly well. I was arrogant as hell. And I don't think I knew how to love. And over the process of time, through just absorbing things from being in close proximity to people like my wife and raising kids and realizing that that's part of my mission here on earth as well too. And I know that's not for everybody, but there are plenty of ways that you can learn about love. It's through that process that I started to realize that at the end of the day, really, all we want to do is to live a happy and a fulfilled life. And what gives us that is doing things we love, being loved and giving love.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you step through those fears? You mentioned that, obviously you heard the calling, you had your epiphany, you knew what you needed to do, but then all these fears come up, which is often what happens. There's that fear of change, the fear of letting go, the fear of what you believe to be true now not really being the truth, and all those. How did you step through that?
I'm constantly stepping through it, Jo. It's a constant journey. Even this week, I am facing those fears as well. Mm. But you do it one step at a time. The saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just take one bite.
Oh, I don't want to eat an elephant.
No, it's a metaphor. How do you run a marathon? One step at a time. Maybe that's a nicer one.
Perfect. All right. So we're actually going to go to a break. But everybody, you're listening to Joanne Antoun, Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm here with my special guest, David Solomon. You can visit his site. It's davidsolomon.com.au. That's davidsolomon.com.au. Stay tuned, folks. Coming up after the break is more awesome conversation with David and a giveaway. We'll be right back with more.
Joanne Antoun, transformational expert, founder and creator of CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, more fondly known as Cut the Crap, is coming to the USA. Become a CTC master therapist, transform your life and the lives of others. Join the team of transformation in 2016. Choose to live a life you love and love what you do. For more information and a scholarship opportunity, visit iictc.net.
Have you had enough of feeling stuck and unsure of what direction to take? Are you ready to be free of the past and finally get rid of the fears, phobias, anxiety, and depression for good? Are you ready to cut the crap and create the future you desire? In just one 2-hour session, CTC, the life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, can help you do just that. Set yourself free now. Visit iictc.net for more details.
Welcome back to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm Joanne Antoun. Today I'm here with my special guest, David Solomon. Now, David is actually giving away a 40-minute Skype call where you have the opportunity to pick David's brains about aligning passion, purpose, and profit. So for all your listeners out there, this is an amazing opportunity to have 40 minutes with David. I guarantee you that 40 minutes will be packed with so much insights for you. And we're actually going to be giving that away to our third caller. So our third call-in number is... international number is +1 877 230 3062. So we're giving that away to our third caller. It's a 40-minute Skype call to pick David's brains about aligning passion, purpose, and profit as it relates specifically to you. Guaranteed to get lots of insight. So our lines are open. That's for the third caller. Also, for all of our other listeners, go to David's website. There's a link there to get a complimentary ebook, The Quick Fire Guide to Creating Soul Goals. There's so much information on his site. So I do recommend you going there. Now, David, we're going to move into soul and business, and that's one of your key messages. You often talk about soul and business. So can you elaborate on that for me?
I'd love to, Jo. It was quite a while ago that I realize that part of what I'm here for is to bring soul to business and business to soul. And that came about because I'd identified that there are a whole lot of businesses out there that are completely lacking in soul. At the same time, there's a whole lot of really soulful people who need business skills. And it's like yin yang. Soul and business actually go hand in hand and need each other. One without the other is incomplete. And I saw myself in a fairly unique position to be able to bridge the gap between the two because of my artistic performing background and also because I'd been working in business and studying business and love business for such a long period of time. My love of business came about because in my earlier days I was a recruiter, and so I had the opportunity to go into companies and question them about why they did things and how they did things and learn about their cultures and their processes and systems. And I have, as a human being, I have an insatiable curiosity to learn. So that was great. I was learning all about business on the one hand. But on the other hand, I'm also a singer and an actor. I can't dance for nuts, unfortunately. That's just a mindset thing. You'll help me change that, I'm sure, Jo.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we can do something about that.
So I was able to identify with people who had more of a soul-based, but also understand what was required pragmatically from a business point of view, and saw that the two were actually symbiotic, as I said. And so for me now, the message is about saying, well, if you've got a business, make sure your soul's in that business. Simon Sinek talks about this when he talks about, there's a wonderful TED talk on it. You just have to Google Simon Sinek TED and you'll come across it. But his message is basically that people care more about your why than your what. And the why is the soul-based stuff.
Well, that's the passion, isn't it? Because I mean, people are genuinely attracted to somebody that speaks from a place of passion.
Totally. It's all about energy. It's not, from using business speak, it's not about features and benefits of what you can do. It's about what's in it for the person. What's the experience they're going to have? And so that's where the passion comes out. That's where it's all about feeling. We talked about that in the early part of our session. You asked me about how did I first tap into what my purpose is. And I said that as soon as I got away from my thinking, which is like the business stuff, and I tapped into my heart, which is the feeling stuff, then all of a sudden I was able to get to a place where I needed to be. It's the same thing with business, because ultimately what you want to be able to do is to wake up every single morning and go, oh, I'm so excited I get to go to work today. I get to do what I love. And at the end of the day, to be able to say, oh, what a wonderful day. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you. And the other thing about it too is that just looking at it purely from a selfish point of view, when you're tapped into your passion and your purpose and you build that into your business, it's inspirational.
Yeah.
It allows you to – it actually feeds you energy. So that you wake up in the morning earlier and you stay up later at night because you're so inspired by what it is that you do. And the chances are you'd probably do it whether you got paid for it or not. Now, from a business point of view, you must get paid for it. It's important. Otherwise, it's just charity work. And if you don't have an alternate source of income, you'll go broke very quickly. So that's why I see that the two are very necessary to have together. I mean, Joe, I look at the work that you do with CTC. That's a work of passion. You do that and you put so much into it because it's your life's work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never lose power. I've always pumped, always full of energy because it is my purpose, my passion, and I love it. And that's the most important thing, really.
And that's what we all ought to find. And then we all ought to find our way of navigating our way through the world in a world that is very left-brain, pragmatic, dollars and cents, have to pay the bills, but do that from a position of passion and purpose. And that's what ultimately gives you a life that is full of fulfillment and full of love and full of joy.
Absolutely. And I think one really a key component that you bring into what you do is your business skills, because a lot of people in the service industries are damn good at what they do. There are amazing therapists out there, be they healers, be they, counsellors, beauty therapists, hairdressers or whatever, there are people in the service industry that are very good at what they do, but they're not very good at business.
Absolutely. It's the whole reason why people often go into business that's indicative of that. It's called, Michael Gerber, the guy who wrote the E-Myth, talks about it as the entrepreneurial seizure. And some stage along the way, you get the seizure that, yes, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And what prompts that might be very different for different people. For some, it could be, this is my path to fame and fortune. Or for others, I never want to work for a boss again. For others, it could be just simply a comment where someone says, hey, you're really good at that. You should go into business. You'll make a fortune. Or you should be doing that for yourself. Whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. There are so many people who are brilliant at what I'll call their craft, whether it's their I don't mean to demean anything that is soul-based and so on. I'll call it a craft because it's the skill. It's what you're great at doing. But there's a different set of skills that are necessary to run a business.
Absolutely.
And those are the skills that often people have a very, very rude wake-up call when they go into business because they don't realize that running a business is actually very different from doing what it is that they're good at and they love.
Absolutely. So what are soul goals?
Soul goals are, well, I think we've already defined it, to be honest. Soul goals are what it is that you're called to do when you listen to your heart. They're going to be different for different people. And some of them might be things about teaching. Some of them might be things about doing. Some of them might be things about being. Probably less about having, unless that having leads to doing something with the things that you have. But ultimately, it's whatever your heart tells you that you're here on this planet to do.
Okay, so
passion and purpose.
Yeah, okay, so somebody finally hears their calling. They decide that they want to do it. How do they go about building a higher purpose business or a life? What are the steps that you as a coach would give them?
It's a little bit difficult to answer that question, actually, because it's different for each person. I'll try and come up with something that the listeners can actually adopt that's more generic. But the first thing is, and this is actually probably the most important, once they've identified their calling, they then have to see whether the world needs that or whether the world wants that. Because I might find that my calling might be something like line dancing, to just pull something out of the air.
See, you do have that dancing thing in you.
You're right.
You can act and you're bringing the dancing in.
Now, I might be really, really passionate about it, and I might be really good at it as well too. And I might have identified that that's the reason I'm here, is to fulfill that, to be the best possible line dancer that I can be. But if the world doesn't need another line dancer, then that's not the premise for a business. But there's one more thing. It's not enough that the world needs it. The world has to be prepared to pay for it as well. Because if the world won't pay for it, then all I've got is a charity. So from a business point of view, building a business around your calling, around your soul goal, around your passion and your purpose has to be followed up by, is there a need? Is there a desire? And will people pay for it? That's where a lot of people fall down. They actually go into business saying, well, look, I found what it is that I love. I found what it is that fulfills my soul. I'm just going to go and do that. But they haven't actually done their research and identified whether there's a market for it or not, and whether that market is going to make it worth their time to actually take what it is that they do to market.
Right. So how did your thinking get to where it is now? I mean, obviously there's been massive changes in your life, and they've been, knocking on your door, and like you mentioned earlier, it took you 30 years to actually step into the heart. But how did your thinking get to where it is now?
It's an interesting question because it's a combination of thinking and feeling. Part of it is, again, something that you pointed to in your introduction, which is lifelong learning. I consider that every single person that I talk to, everything I read, everything I see, everything I do, everything I experience, everything I listen to, there's got to be a lesson in there, because otherwise I wouldn't have been presented with the opportunity to experience it. So I'm constantly trying to absorb from around me what is the meaning behind this for me. So there's that lifelong learner issue has come up time and time again.
But see, wisdom is in the doing, isn't it? So for a lot of people, they do the reading, they go to the seminars, they, do all that stuff. But they actually don't grasp the learnings. And I mean, we know that there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom is actually doing something with it. So, do you find that a lot of people will actually just busy themselves?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And there's a trap in terms of getting stuck in the learning. And part of that is a fear of inadequacy. Oh, I have to learn more things. I have to get another qualification. I have to go to that seminar before I'm ready to take action in the world. But you're absolutely right. The majority of the learning comes from the doing. And here's the irony. The majority of the doing that's going to give you the learning is the stuff that you get wrong.
Yeah.
It's not about what you do right. It's the mistakes that you make along the way. So if you're not prepared to step out of your comfort zone and to get into your uncomfortable zone and be prepared to fail, then you might as well sit in cotton wool and not take any risk whatsoever. It's a little, you captured it so nicely in your intro where you said words to the effect of, if you are, in fact, I can't recall the exact words that you said now, but it was basically about questioning whether everything that you know is actually true or not. And you even asked me this question not that long ago. You said, what if everything that you thought was true in fact wasn't? What would happen then?
Yeah, and I say that to a lot of people because every one of us have to be prepared to let go of everything we believe is true, because otherwise we won't grow.
And often those beliefs are based on thinking that is either flawed or the thinking that is created by our ego or our subconscious, which is designed to protect the status quo and not allow us to grow. Because the subconscious and our ego don't want us to change. They actually want us to stay safe. And it thinks that to do that, you have to stay the same.
Yeah. I know we met, would it be 5 years ago now?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago. And you're not the same person that you were before. There have been so many amazing changes with you. The growth has been huge, and I mean, you always had a beautiful, beautiful big heart on you. But the expansion that has come, you're an incredible person, and I see the difference you make to the lives of others, which is really beautiful. So, you're just a gorgeous, gorgeous soul. Now, so for you personally, what do you see as the mind-body-spirit connection?
For me personally.
Yeah.
It's it's actually about recognizing that they're not separate. That, I think, was the big, the BFO, the blinding flash of the obvious for me.
Yeah, that's been huge for you. I remember we'd be chatting about something and I'd ask you a question. You go, yeah, but how? I need the steps 1, 2, 3, which is all, which is all head stuff. And oh my goodness, the note taker.
I still take notes.
Yeah, you still take notes, but you're certainly not just so absorbed in your head anymore. But you seem to have. You're very grounded in the flow. I see like the energy flows now between that mind, body, spirit for you. Can you share a little bit more about that connection that you feel personally?
I think that I led with my strength, with what my training was, what my environment taught me, what my education gave me, what my home background gave me, which was my head. It was all about thinking, and the quality of thinking and the intellect that you bring to something was what it was all about for me. And then as my heart broke open, I didn't lose that head stuff. It wasn't about saying, oh, forget the head stuff, that's wrong. It's now all about the heart. And so I brought the head stuff with me. So I still haven't lost any of that ability.
You haven't lost your mind.
No. Well, some people say I have, but that's another conversation. But I kept that with me on the journey. So now I integrated those two. And then the third thing, which you've seen for me, and anybody who jumps on my website will see this because I've got a before and after photo, is how I've then, it took me another 3 years to work out that there was a body connection as well. Mm-hmm. And the inspiration for that was when I was sitting down and looking at my 40-year goals and suddenly realizing that the body that I had would not carry me another 40 years. So it was either do something about the body or stop talking about the goals and give up on the dream and give up on the passion and the purpose and the vision and just settle into a life of mediocrity where I existed. A life of quiet desperation, as I think it's been called before. I wasn't prepared to do that. So thanks to my gorgeous son, I was introduced to a nutritional system that has allowed me to literally transform my body in a very, very short period of time. And we all know from your own experiences, Jo, how quickly that can be done. Mm. So then that's when the body integration came too. And there's a story that I want to share very quickly about a plaque that I saw in a wall, again, probably 30 years ago. There's something about that number 30. A company that I was doing some consulting with had a corporate office, and I was working there, and I went to visit, and there was a plaque on the wall that said, "He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything."
Oh, absolutely.
And that was all about head stuff for 30 years for me. And suddenly, when I had that inspiration, hang on, my body's not going to carry me, that plaque came back to me, and I remembered it in an instant, and I suddenly realized, crikey, without my health, I have got absolutely nothing. Of course it's part of it. Of course it's integrated. And so for me, that's when I got the integration of all three elements.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mind, body and spirit. Excellent. Everybody, I'm Joanne Antoun and you're listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm here with my special guest, David Solomon. Do visit his website. There's lots of amazing stuff on there. It's davidsolomon.com.au. Stay tuned, folks. Coming up after the break is more awesome conversation with David.
Do you know that where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay? Do you want to be free of the past and all that holds you back? Well, you need CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap.
I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical, but CTC has rocked my world. My past issues, even my fear of public speaking is gone, and nothing can stop me now.
Because of CTC, I can honestly say that I'm good enough. I actually love myself.
It was awesome. I should have done it years ago. Now I know that I am the power in my world.
CTC gave me back my health. I cut the crap, and now I have my health and my life back.
To find a therapist or to join the team of transformation, visit iictc.net. Are you after a speaker, a trainer, a motivator that packs punch? Someone to motivate your team? Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap, is your lady. One of Australia's most sought-after speakers, Joanne will have you sitting at the edge of your seat wanting more. This lady is direct and so beautifully weaves inspiring and motivational stories into her teaching that are sure to motivate your team and create at least a few ahas. No fluff here. This lady brings spirituality down to earth with grace and style. If where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay, then this lady is for you. Visit joanneantoun.com for more details.
Welcome back to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm Joanne Antoun. Today I'm speaking with David Solomon. Now, David, how do you personally integrate your passion for the performing arts into your business?
It started off, I thought that I needed to be a public speaker, so that was the way I was going to do it. So being on stage performing was the way that it was going to be. Turned out that was just a path that wasn't quite right. It doesn't mean that I don't do public speaking, but it's not about being a professional public speaker for me. What evolved was a model of business that utilizes the performing arts as a metaphor. Some people use sports, some people use the military. I use the performing arts, and it comes from a quote by Shakespeare where he said that all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. So my thinking is that if that's true, therefore every business would operate on a business stage. And around that stage, there are 4 key things. There is the script, the cast, the audience, and the production team. The script is, why does the business exist? What's its unique point of difference in the marketplace? What's its exit strategy and things like that? The cast are the people who go on stage and deliver the business performance every day. The audience is your marketplace, and everyone's in your marketplace, your customers, your competitors, your collaborators. And the production team are all of those things, the systems, processes, infrastructure that allow the cast to go on stage every day. And it's about getting the balance right with all 4 of those things. So by using those models, I get to talk about the performing arts. And we look at people like, for example, Lady Gaga, and we look at her as a branding model. And we look at organizations like Cirque du Soleil and consider them from a blue ocean point of view. How have they created something that's unique, can't be copied, and hasn't been copied as a result of that? So for me, that's the way that I do it. And just occasionally, just on a very, very odd occasion, I'll sing for my clients as well.
You've done that for me many a time in mid-conversation.
I can't help it when the spirit moves me, as they say.
Yes, it comes right through you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about overwhelm. For a lot of people, I mean, life is busy, and many people feel, there's just too much to do, not enough time, and whether overwhelmed for some people is, stressful or what have you. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about overwhelm, how to recognize it just before it rears its head maybe, and how to deal with it.
Sure. The symptoms of overwhelm are different for different people. Some people get paralyzed when they go into overwhelm. Some people get really, really busy and they just put their head down and they work like crazy and they never surface for air.
Oh, that's me. I actually thrive under pressure and on a challenge. So for me, that feeling really drives me. But I know for a lot of people, like you said, it is paralyzing and they just stay stuck.
But even when you are working really crazily, you can still be in a state of overwhelm. And what tends to take over then is often it's thinking about, well, what do I do first? Where do I go? The size of your to-do list is a really big indicator as to whether you're in overwhelm. Also, the number of roles that you have to play, whether it be as a business owner, as a mum, a dad, a daughter, a son, a friend, a lover, a cook, a chauffeur, and so on. The list is endless in terms of the different roles that we have to play. And if we're playing too many of those roles, sometimes we can feel a little bit stretched. And sometimes, well, as I say, it manifests in different way, but it could be a stressful reaction, or it could be a denial reaction, or it could be just simply, I can't decide what to do, so I won't do anything at all. So sometimes seeing that you're in overwhelm, though, can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it's in our blind spot, and the definition of a blind spot is that you don't actually see it. So relying on people who are going to give you the appropriate, honest feedback as to how you're going can be very, very powerful in that respect. For example, if you find that you're a little bit short-tempered with a loved one, then the chances are that it's not actually the loved one, and it may not be you either, but it's just the pressure that you're under, which is a reflection of the overwhelm.
Right.
And by the way, you can be overwhelmed with just one thing on your to-do list as well. We're not necessarily talking about having multiple things. You could just have one big thing. Maybe you had a client, for example, that was going to be paying the bills, and suddenly that client fell over. Then that can put you into a state of overwhelm, worrying about, well, how am I going to pay the bills this month?
So what's your advice to a client that is in overwhelm to the point where it's affecting their business?
Look, there's a couple of things that I'd suggest. The first one is to use some type of filtering system that allows you to work out what's important and what's not. There is a wonderful little model which I call the opportunity filter, which gives you the opportunity to say no to things. Because saying no to things, once you've said yes to the thing that you want, is actually equally as powerful, if not even more so, than saying yes in the very first place. So if we look for opportunities to say no, the first test of that would be, is this on mission? Is this on purpose? Is this part of my calling? And if the answer to that is no, well, then you don't do it, and you just simply get rid of that. That takes away one level of overwhelm. The second thing is, whose role is it to do this? Do I have to do this myself? Because if I don't have to do it and I can outsource it or I can delegate it, then that's something that I should be doing straight away. So if we can say no to that, that's great. But if it's something that gets through the first two filters and you say, well, yes, it's something that I have to do and it is on mission for me, the third question is, what's the timing? Does it have to be done right now? And if it doesn't have to be done right now, then you diarise it to do it later. Because where you want to be working is that once you've been through all of those filters, you want to be working in that sweet spot, in the spot where you add the greatest value to your business and you're doing something that nobody else can do. It's where your genius lies. And that's where the 80-20 rule lies too. It's 20% of your activity that will give you 80% of your results. We want to get you to that 20% and not get lost in the other 80% of fluff that doesn't pass through those filters. The other tool I'd like to just give everybody are two wonderful, wonderful questions that I learned a long time ago, but I memorized, and it's an interesting story. Back in those days, I didn't have a computer. I just had a typewriter. So I typed them out and I cut them, photocopied them onto colour paper, cut them into strips and put them on the bottom page of every page in my diary, which I had right on my desk in front of me. So I was looking at these questions every day for a year and they were burned into me. And those questions, I'll give credit to them from a book called How to Control Your Time and Your Life by Alan Laken. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the book, but the questions are amazing. Mm-hmm. What is the best use of my time right now? Is this contributing to my progress? I think they're worth repeating. What is the best use of my time right now? And is this contributing to my progress? And if you can answer those questions, then you know in that moment, coming back to presence and coming back to what's in the moment, what it is that you should be doing there and then. Mm. And that can be a massive, massive relief to get you out of overwhelm, because you're not really in overwhelm when you're working on your calling.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So what sort of person is most suited to you and your business?
It's a person who wants to make a difference in the world. generally speaking. It's somebody who, they may not have necessarily found their calling yet. They may need a little bit of help in uncovering what their calling is. But typically it's going to be somebody who knows that they're here to make a contribution. And they want their time on this planet to have made a difference to other people. Those are the people that I really love to work with. I can offer a lot to a lot of different people, but the ones that I get the greatest pleasure from are where I can be a conduit for them to achieve their outcome, and that's the ripple effect. So the things that I can help them with then in turn help other people, which helps other people, which helps other people. That's how I make my contribution.
Perfect. And how about you personally? What are your future plans? Where's David headed? What are you doing? Where do you see yourself?
I'm in the glorious position of being able to work with my youngest son in business. That brings tears to my eyes every time I talk about it because I'm so blessed to be able to do that. The work that I do, I actually have my purpose and my passion and my mission and my calling is over the next 40 years to help 1 million people or more to live a life that they truly love. And so I have a couple of ways that I'm going to do that. One is through talking to people, getting my message out there, teaching people and having the ripple effect. And the other is through helping people to uncover their own spark of the divine, the thing that lights them up and helping them to achieve what they can in this world, which will in turn help other people.
That's absolutely beautiful. Now, I know you and I have been friends for quite a long time, done a fair bit of work together too, and I know you do the vision boards and, raise your vibration and things like that. What else do you do to help you to manifest or attract to you the right people, places and opportunities to ensure that you stay on track? Apart from me, of course. Well, I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I text you quite often and just let you know how things are going and sometimes ask you for a moment of inspiration or magic. I think it's actually some of the stuff that we've already talked about, and it's for me, it's two things. Firstly, it's about staying as present as I possibly can. And sometimes, because we're not perfect, and certainly I'm not either. On the one hand, I am. On the other hand, I'm still learning and growing. It's before you correct me on that, Joe.
You woke up this morning, there's more shit to learn, let me tell you.
Absolutely. So I stay as present as I possibly can. And that way I'm not living in the past and trying to worrying about what happened and trying to change what happened, which of course I can't do anyway. Yes, I can change the way I process it and the way I think about it and I can even change my memories about it by changing the modalities. But it's not about affecting the past. And it's also not so much about living in the future either, because if I'm living in the future, then I'm worried and concerned and thinking about what's coming. The best way for me to influence the future is by living in the present. So the first thing that I do personally is that I try to stay as present as I possibly can. And I don't wear a watch anymore. So I'm not focused on what's the time. I try to engross myself in whatever the activity is. And I have reminders on my phone that beep when I've got appointments and so on, so that I don't lose track of time, but I don't worry about the time. That's the first thing. The second thing that I do, and I think this is probably the key, is that I constantly remind myself of why am I doing what I'm doing? What are my highest values? And the exercise that we talk about and in the ebook about creating soul goals, the Quickfire Guide to Creating Soul Goals, it talks about identifying what are your highest values. Because once you know what your highest values are, you know how to operate in the world and you know why you're doing what you're doing. So the why is the most important thing. And I just keep coming back to my top 5 values. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And that keeps me on track every single day.
Fantastic. Now, just very quickly, in a few seconds, what would be your key message to listeners?
My key message is find what it is that you love, then find a way to build a business or a life around that, and that is what will give you success defined on your terms of what success is. Success is not what other people think it is. Success is what your heart tells you success is. And as we said, integrate heart, body, and spirit, because all of them are necessary.
That's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. It has been such a pleasure speaking with you. As always, really, really thrilled to have had you on air today, David. Now, for all the listeners out there, you can actually get David's ebook, complimentary, the quickfire guide to creating soul goals. That's available on his website. That's davidsolomon.com.au, davidsolomon.com.au. David, I love you heaps. Thank you so much. We're at the end of today's program. Thank you for listening, everybody. Do join me again for my next show in a fortnight as I speak with the stunning and soulful Elise Fee, a life expansion coach who incorporates the standard functional approach of solving business issues with a twist. She helps you to see the way by getting out of your way as well. This is not a show. This show is not to be missed. To contact me directly, folks, do visit me on my site, JoanneAntoun.com. That's JoanneAntoun.com, or you can hear today's show again on iTunes. Love and blessings to you all.
You've been listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic with Joanne Antoun. Tune in every second Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, as Joanne and her specially selected guests inspire you to live each moment of your life with absolute love and passion. Want to connect with Joanne directly? Visit www.joanneantoun.com. That's joanneantoun.com, and find out just how easy it is to heal the past, live in the present, step fully into your power, and easily create the future you desire.